If things get screwed up, I be chill. Okay, if things get screwed up, you find a solution.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is my biggest thing in life. Like I always say this to people, and I'm always like very like adamant. I'm like, you know what? It's a whole idea of like crying over spilt milk. Okay, some shit happens. All right, shit happens to everyone. You know what I mean? Some crazy shit like this coronavirus, and we're all in lockdown. You know, it's not the greatest. It's a situation, but you try to like deal with it as best as you can, and try not to get too. Obviously, it's hard sometimes. I mean, I've been pretty anxious at this situation, but you try to like look at it and be like, okay, there's no point in me getting super, super emotional about this, right?
Yeah.
Like either extremes. Let's just deal with this shit. Okay. That's the best, most proactive way you can do it. It's like anytime you get into a fight, you get into anything, it's like, okay, hang on, let's take a step back and be like, okay, let's try to be proactive and come up with a solution or something instead of like crying and being all like, you know, I know
it's easier said than done for most people.
100%.
Well, for some people. So I think it depends on everyone's different personalities. Some people are a little bit more stressed out, and some people are less stressed out.
No, true.
But I do think that, you know, experiencing different hardships and having more stressful situations happen to you is actually a good thing. So I see it as a good thing. So for example, like when stressful things happen to me, I try to think about it in a way that like, okay, will this matter to my life a year from now?
Exactly.
In a year from now, like you have to like kind of take a step back and be like, okay, a year from now, I'm going to laugh about this, or I'm going to be, you know, and I try to think like if something bad happens, I'm like, you know what? I'll get a good story out of it. That's what I always say.
This is the same thing. I always think about this. I'm like, I look at all this shit that's happened in my life. Cause like some people like will be like, oh, Daniel, you know, I've had a great life, but along the road, there's been a lot of shit that I don't talk about that's happened to me. Yeah. And actually it makes for some freaking amazing stories. Like I could write a book of like the crazy shit that's happened in my life.
How boring would it be to have a life where you know, everything went right?
Exactly. Well, this
so
is
I actually like, I kind of enjoy going through like struggles.
Exactly.
Like even like, cause, I told the story in this podcast, I told the story of my parents and getting their car smashed, right? I said it today, right?
I think so, but I think it might've been in the other episode. I don't think it was in this episode because it was
in the other episode.
It was in the other episode, Rose.
Okay. So in the next episode, you'll hear about this story.
Yeah.
So basically my parents got, their car windows smashed.
Windows twice.
Yeah. Twice in like one trip. And then, you know, like, it sucks, but you know, at the end of the day, like it's going to cost some money. Yeah. It's going to suck. Yeah. At that time it is stressful, but when you have to not let yourself get overly stressed about it, because then you're hit with a double whammy, because then now you're like, okay, your body is stressed out and it's not a good thing. So you have to always try to take a step back and be like, okay, how do I fix this situation? Yeah. And is this going to matter in 2 weeks? Yeah. Because it probably won't. And like we're lucky enough to be in that situation. If something bad happens, you know, we have enough money to pay for whatever. Like if I have a bad situation happen, it's going to suck, but I'm going to have enough money to pay for it, hopefully. And it's not a life or death situation. So when I try to think of it as like, if it's not a life or death situation, let's try not to stress about it kind of thing.
Well, it's like the same thing that happened. Like I mentioned in another podcast, I got mugged this year and had my phone stolen, which had like all of my banking shit on it, so much stuff. It was like a disaster. And I got, you know, I was attacked as well, which is like not fun. But, you know, I woke up the next day and I was like, you know what? I was a bit shaken up and everything else, but I was like, okay, let's think about this. And it cost me a lot of money to like sort out all of my shit, get a new phone, everything else. But at the end of the day, I had my health for the most part. I was like, fine. I was like, you know what? After, you know, a few weeks, I'm not even going to think about this. It's annoying more than anything, but like I need to try to take a step back, not get too worked up, and let's move on. Let's get this sorted and come up with a solution to the problem. It took me a little while to get there, but you know what? I got there. So,
and it made for a great story in this podcast.
No, exactly.
See, this is what I always say to people. Cause like, and the thing is, whenever, like, let's say I went on a trip, okay, and it was like 2 weeks long, and then I came back and you asked me how my trip was. How many people tell the story of like, oh my God, it was so fantastic. And how interesting would that be? Versus me telling you that I got mugged and like almost like got my entire bag stolen. You know what I mean? Like that is so much more interesting of a story. People want to hear that shit. It is more interesting to tell. So this is why I always say, if something bad happens, I'm like, I could make a story out of this. And I think it's interesting. Exactly. It would be fun. And it's character building as well. So in one hand, I think it's a great thing that it's not a great thing what's happening right now in the world. Yeah. But I was just thinking about this before our podcast, and I was just thinking that you know, it is obviously for some people, it is a life or death situation. And it really, like, it's a shitty situation.
Yeah.
So many people are losing their lives, and sometimes unnecessarily so, because they don't have enough equipment.
Equipment.
And it's really sad. But for those people that aren't in that situation, for those lucky people, which we are part of, that we're not in that life or death situation, and, you know, knock on wood, our family is still okay. You know, in this situation, it still sucks because, you know, we're staying home and like our lives are being, you know, kind of put on hold in a way. But at the same time, it's like, this could be a, you know, kind of character building, you know, scenario for a lot of people. We're going to struggle a little bit, but at the same time, like, for example, think about Canada, right? I feel like Canadians are, you know, we're a little bit spoiled because we have it very easy. We have it very
Canada's
easy.
like a little bubble, at least, at least Calgary. I feel like Calgary especially is a little bubble.
And a lot of us, not all of us, there are people struggling here, but a lot of us have it very easy, and we kind of are used to things being handed to us. So in one way or another, we're going to learn a lot from this experience, because I do think that there is a big value in the struggle. You know what I mean?